Shut up and sit down.
Hey everybody, Barry here again. Hey everybody, Barry here again. The truck is facing the wrong way because all of the light is right here and I gotta work on the back of the truck. And I was just gonna turn it around, but I'd rather drive it out and back it in. Not for any other reason than I just want to listen to it again. So as you may have noticed, the truck has a little bit of a bounce to it. And when I backed in, I just kind of bumped the brake a couple times and it's like, whoa. So that's because, like, there's no shocks on it. And that's what I'm going to do today. What I'm going to be using for shocks is these air shocks. So this is Monroe, part number MA837. We can see here, this one is fully compressed. This one is fully extended. And we've got a lot of travel. That's going to allow the truck to go up on the ramp and let the suspension fully extend without bottoming the shocks out. And also allow the truck to bottom out on this jounce bumper without bottoming out the shock and breaking it. So here it looks like we've got, I will say, 9.5, 10 inches of travel. So that's going to be more than enough. Plus they're air shocks, which are going to be hooked up with these lines to a regular Schrader valve, like a tire valve. And I'll have that stuck outside of the truck here somewhere. And I'll be able to pump the shocks up if I'm carrying any weight in the back of it. Or if I find that I'm getting any tire hop, I can put a little bit of air in it and see if I can stiffen the suspension up. I know it's not a great setup, but I'm not no prep racing here. I'm just having fun. And I think this might be where I had the valve the last time I had air shocks on the truck. Perfect. So what I'm going to try to figure out how to do now is measure the position of where the shock is going to be. And where it's at right now, I have about 3 inches of travel before the shock hits this, or the rear end hits this jounce bumper. And it's not going to compress very much, maybe a ½ an inch or so. So my shock is plenty long enough. So I think what I'm going to do is give it an extra 2 inches. So the shock right now, I'll say right to this line right here is 3.5 inches. And I'll use this just as a reference. So I want to make this go to 8.5 inches. That'll give me 5 inches of travel. So now we're here at 7. And that's 8.5. And here is the other shock for reference. I'm just going to measure from, it would have been way more sensible if I just measured the overall. So that's what I'm going to do now. So from eye to eye, this one is 15 3/4. This one is 20 3/4. So this is going to be my basically neutral length. So that's going to give the truck 2 extra inches of shock after it pretty much bottoms out, or say 1.5 inches anyway. So it's going to make it not break the shock or break the mount or anything like that. And it's going to be always floating sort of in the middle. It's not going to be maxed out ever. So what I'm left with is a mount that is far too long. Oh boy, I think I can actually mount it back here. I wasn't planning on doing that. Let's move that out of the way for a second. I wasn't really planning on doing that, but I think it'll work just fine actually. I don't want it to be above the frame at all, because this is where the ribs are going to go for my wooden floor. But, that'll work just fine. It's a good neutral spot. I can make my mount come off this cross member here a little bit. And this is the same as the stock mounting location, which is fine. It would have been kind of cool to go on the outside of the frame, but that definitely won't work. It would just break. That would work right there also. The frame is not very wide, but I think it would be half stable anyway. I can make it right off of here, right off the bottom of the rear end. And it'll work fine on the front too, if it was like there. I think this will work. Let's do it. Well, I'm making a little bit of progress. Here are my pieces, and they're all very crude. So my plan is to bolt them all together like this so that the bolt holes are all completely centered, and then grind them down until they're all even, and then also grind down all of the spots where it's going to weld to the rear end and to the cross member. So when I unbolt them, they'll be all exactly the same. And then I'll do these that are going to weld to whatever they weld to. Man, it is so hot in here. This hat is really, really warm. And this jacket was not made for the punishment that I'm putting it through. But I've got one done. It's pretty not terrible looking actually for what I'm used to doing with these things. And the other one is done. It's still rolling. It's still pretty hot actually. But this one is done, and it actually came out really, really nice too. Like two of them are stuck together. Two of them are actually stuck together. Are you serious? I can't even weld that good. Yes. Proved it wrong. All right. Now I don't know which way they go. Anyway. From now till the shocks are done, it should be really, really quick. It's basically just bolt the tabs onto the shocks, line them up where they have to go. Bzzz. Done. And then run some airlines, which is also not serious. But I'm not going to run the airlines yet. I'm going to keep the pack in a nice safe place where I'll probably forget that I put it and have to buy a new pack of air hoses. because I'm gonna do the wood floor, and maybe I'll do that next, in the next video, because I'm gonna put the fuel cell probably on top of the floor because it looks kind of cool and it'll be easy to put gas in and stuff. And the radiator is gonna go on top of the floor. The battery is gonna go somewhere. I don't know where yet. Maybe back there. But after, yeah, the shocks are gonna be done. And I can probably just put the floor in next. After I put inner fenders in, because they're non-existent also. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's weld some stuff up. So I've got the tabs just loosely bolted onto the shocks, just to have an idea of what's going to happen here. So let's see. Is that one too long, I wonder? So I'm just going to kind of collapse the shock a little bit, see how much I'm going to need. It's not too bad, actually. Let's see. I want to try to get it as vertical as I can without going up to the floor. And that's actually not too bad right there. That's not bad at all right there. Sweet. So I'll measure the other shock the same distance, and that should pretty much do her. So I know that was just kind of eyeballed, but it's as vertical as I can get the shock while maintaining some of the travel. And with the shock vertical, if the rear diff moved 3 inches, the shock would move 3 inches. But when you change the angle of the shock like this, instead of it going up 3 full inches, it might only go up 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So let's see what this here is now. 19.5 inches center to center. That's not bad at all. I don't mind that one bit. Mainly because the shock completely bottomed out is still 16 inches. So we're still 1/2 inch longer than if the shock were to completely bottom out. Look at all that dust. Wow. Welding makes it hotter. Oh, I haven't even done anything yet, and I'm just completely sweating. Man, it looks cool though. It looks really, really neat with the shocks on it. And yeah, there we go. Super cool. I like it. Air shocks are the best. They're the best way to tighten up a terrible suspension setup. I'm not saying leaf springs is terrible. I'm saying I don't have any traction bars or assassin bars or slappers or Caltrax, anything. Hopefully this will calm down wheel hop a little bit. I'll put 30 or 40 pounds in it so it doesn't raise the suspension, but it tightens it up. And yeah, that looks super cool. So I'm gonna go weld the tabs on. I don't have any bolts. Well, there are some bolts in it, but they're not long enough, or they're too long, because I don't prepare well for things sometimes. But I'll just run to Concrete Concepts on Monday or Tuesday and grab some bolts for that. And yeah, making more progress. This thing is, at least it's gonna have suspension now. It's not gonna be like, whoa, 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 every time I drive it now. Nice and tight, good stuff. And after I get the wood in the floor, it's starting to look like a real truck again. I mean, a rusty, colorful 70-year-old truck, but a truck. Knew I was gonna do it. I knew I was gonna do it. I tried not to. And I did it anyway. Ah! Man, I hate wearing a mask with my beard because it messes my beard up. But also, the fumes just go through my beard and I still breathe them in. So it's kind of like a lose-lose. Whatever. I'm gonna leave that fan on for a second. Get some heat out, or get some smoke out. But look, it's all welded in. All welded down there. And I can't help but to say, Flux Ninja! Oh God, I know. I'm terrible at this. Wait for that to cool down a little bit. I might give it a little bit of artificial cooling with some water and a spritz gun or something. Man, all this side of my face is all burnt and I could smell hair because I was welding like this. Oh, it's all going down here. I don't like overhead welding. It sucks really bad. But man, in like 5 minutes, I'm gonna have shocks. That's so cool. Let's do a bounce test, actually. Test number 1, no shocks. Wow. Whoa, I can almost get it off the ground. That's not really good for traction or ride. Not at all. And now with the shocks installed, let's do another bounce test. Okay, test number 2 with shocks installed with no air. Yeah, that's so much better. And there's no air in the shocks at all. The only collapse, I don't know, like an inch and a half. I think it's gonna work. If I find that it's bouncing at all, I can put some air in the shocks, like I said. And it's gonna have 10 gallons of fuel, plus a battery, plus the rad that's already there, and probably 30 or 40 pounds of wood, maybe more. So it's gonna be a couple hundred more pounds in the back yet. That's gonna make that suspension settle a little bit more. I'm really happy with this today. This is great. So to check out the angle that it's on, it's, I don't know if it's much more than the stock truck. Now, the stock Chev had one this way and one going forward, but I figured it'd be a lot easier for me to hook up both airlines. They can just go over there somewhere in under the bed, and maybe they'll go up through and I can drill a hole, I don't know, say right there inside the fender or something like that. I don't really mind. I'd like to keep the air hoses out of here so you don't be able to see them. But when I'm ready, if I decide to put assassin bars on, I'll do that. But I am going to be painting this diff at some point. I just need to make up my brake line brackets again. And I got to weld a small tab on there, and that's not a big deal. And probably relocate this brake hose here a little bit because it's touching the shock now. But again, that's not really a huge deal. But it has shocks now. It has shocks on all 4 corners. That's really cool. If I find that the air shocks are giving me issues, I'll just look up the part number, see what type of vehicle it fit, and I'll put regular shock absorbers on it. Because these are not made to be driving around with no air in them, as far as I know, because they collapse and they stay collapsed, or they extend and they stay extended. Usually, I know our Monroe OE Spectrum shocks, you've got to force it down and it springs right back out to extend it again. And many shocks like that on pickups and cars and stuff are like that. So I expect that would make it a lot more solid, but we'll see how it performs. If I don't like this, like I said, I'll change it up. I don't mind it. This is not a factory vehicle where I've got to bolt on the exact perfect part number. I'll cut tabs off and weld something else on. This has been 6 years of me modifying this truck, so I really don't care. It might look different again than this next year. Whatever. But as of right now, that looks really good. I'm really, really happy with how it looks. Super cool. And I think it's gonna work really well. So my girls are gone for a birthday party all night. It's a sleepover birthday, and you know what that means. Gonna go home with my wife and watch some movies and eat chips and dip and just pig out all night. Yes. So that's enough rust and flux core and welding and that's enough of all this for tonight. So I'm gonna go home and shut her down here for tonight. So thanks for checking out the channel. Thanks to all the new subscribers and my YouTube members and patrons. If you want to check out my Patreon, it's patreon.com/stationroadratrods, and the YouTube members link is down here. And also my Teespring store, I'll have that in the description, and that's some merch in there. And thanks for watching. Have a great day, everybody.